Hello, everybody. This is Francesco Pigozzo, and with Daniela Martinelli, I'm the coordinator of the Jean Monnet Teachers Training Project, whose acronym actually is Multiscale EU. It's a Jean Monnet Teachers Training Project, as I said, promoted by our research center, Citoyenne, based at eCampus University, an Italian online university. We provide teachers all over Europe at all levels, school levels, all scales, with opportunities to train themselves on the civic education field, which is the field in which we are carrying on our research and action since 15 to 20 years now. We are really pleased to offer now through our project this basic introductory training initiative to every interested teacher all around Europe. And it's a training opportunity dealing with our multi-scale, as the title of the project says, multi-scale perspective on critical citizenship pedagogy. In this introductory video, I'm just going to give you some highlights, some of the most insightful key concepts that can help you begin to understand something about our own approach and perspective, and that, above all, can help you also delve into one or more of the contents that we propose in this basic training program. So let's start with the key foundational ideas. But right before listing them, I want to stress the fact that, as you can see also on your screen, our approach is about, well, I could ask you about what on the basis of the picture that you can see here. But since this is a video, unfortunately, we are not together, we cannot interact, and that's a pity because this is part of our approach. In reality, I must say that for what regards us, and Daniela in particular, who created that picture and decided to use it as a key symbolic picture for our own approach, we see in it many, many things that are related to the very foundational ideas we have about the pedagogical approach to civic education. It's about questioning reality, it's about astonishment, it's about being disoriented. As our very nickname says, we call ourselves gli spaesati in Italian, or les dépaysés in French, if you want. That means disoriented in a way, but it also includes a hint to the fact that we do not belong in absolute ways to any kind of belonging. Even the geographical or territorial one cannot be absolute. So we are disoriented in our at the very roots of our existence. And I think this picture well represents those ideas. So those are exactly the same ideas in a way that you will find that create the basis of a vision, not just about education itself, because we are fully convinced that in order to think about educational goals and educational practices in critical ways and maybe also transformative ways and emancipatory ways, you also need to discuss a vision, a worldview about reality in general. So, what are the key foundational ideas on which we found our own pedagogical approach? Here we list them, and it's just in a nutshell. We are convinced that we should start to think about building communities, both in historical terms and in normative terms. So, both looking at our past and looking at how to deal with future issues. We still should start, as I said, with the needs that we share, the problems that we share, or that we think we share, because we also have to identify them and share a common definition of them. rather than starting with or attempting to start with values and principles, which are very important, but maybe they are mostly the result of the issues, problems, and needs to which we have to react rather than the contrary. So, this is important for us, and this has also huge consequences in educational terms, as we will see. Then, this is the second idea as a very well-known one nowadays, complexity, like Edgar Morin, for example, put it, is a really important way to define the very condition of our existence, and maybe also to describe in general terms the reality in which we live. This is true for us. We are complex systems which are part of complex systems, and this means, as a consequence, in conceptual terms, that interdependence and also inequalities and power relations are immediately important concepts to be dealt with in our vision about the world, and also as a consequence in our pedagogical efforts. Um, I cannot delve more into them, but each of these concepts can be the object of a debate, of many debates too, if you want. And there's the third one. The third one is the more strictly linked to our own vision, to what we want to add in terms of epistemology, in terms of the ways we need to conceptualize reality. And the key concept here is scale, time scales, space scales, geographical ones, but also if we really want to move into the complexity in which we have to move from a cognitive point of view, but also from an active, from the point of view of our agency, we need the concept of scales. We need this to be applied not just to geography or the scales of analysis and the natural sciences, but also, and maybe above all in our context, to institutions themselves and our political framework. So that's a third very important concept for us. And then the last one, it's not an original one in itself, but it must be stressed again, because many times we mistake one of these concepts with another, for example, or we also do not see that they are the three key concepts in our view that can well serve us in order to describe, to think about human agency. Means and goals, on the one hand, the first two, which are really clear, also in the politological tradition, for example, but we have to add that they change in relation to a changing reality. And what is this reality? This is the third concept. What is reality? In our view, we bet on the existence of an objective reality against which we can experiment ideas, against which we have to try to strive to adapt, for example. So this is the reality also in biological terms that governs, like natural selection governs the evolution of the species, but at the same time, reality in this sense also governs and impose a kind of objectivity to the very development of human culture too. So that's another huge topic to be discussed. These are just the hints I can give you, in order to better understand, I think, what are we trying to do in terms of our pedagogical effort. And this pedagogical effort deploys inevitably both in theoretical and experimental terms. Both are important, and we need not to forget that we cannot just live in practical contexts, but at the same time we cannot just live in theoretical contexts. This is both contribute to the very art, the very artistic practice in a way that is educating people, or educating ourselves too, if you want. So, what do we do? What do we think? What are the key insights in our vision from the theoretical point of view? And we talk now about education and pedagogy. So, this is related mainly to the objectives, the learning objectives that we draw from the very foundational ideas that I already listed. Um, this means, for example, the first one, we need to start from problems, issues, and needs, means that we must develop individual and collective awareness about the framework in which we live in terms of identifying and tackling shared problems, issues, and needs. This is a key ability that every person and every citizen in democratic contexts must be able to develop, must be helped to develop, must be granted to perform also in his collective life. Otherwise, it's no more a democracy, the context in which he or she lives, and less autonomous he or she is. A second objective related to the second concept, interdependence, inequalities, etc., is we must help new generations and people in general to become more able to analyze and manage those interdependencies in which they live and of which they are made. Each one of us is made, in fact. Inequalities and power relations that derive from those interdependencies, which are not symmetrical, not always, are very important. Inequalities and power relations as consequences of our network of interdependencies, and we must be able to analyze and manage them. Two, then this must be done on different scales. Otherwise, you cannot understand anything about the complex system of which you are part and the complex system that you already are. And a third ability we must develop in terms of learning objectives is the one related to the negotiation and the ability to realize goals without mistaking means for goals, which is the basis, the very basis of ideology in the negative sense, of self-mystifying behaviors and theories. So this is too something difficult to achieve and something to which education and the school systems should aim to achieve for our democracies to thrive. So these are, we think, the main important ideas, just the hints to them, in order to maybe grasp already something of the multi-scale outlook that we are developing and experimenting and translating, as you can see now, in the next few minutes, in practical terms, in didactic experimentations. Why we think this is something important? It can be something important for teachers and the school system, because we think that those ideas, irrespective of their originality or not, but those very ideas, pulling them together, it's really important in order to get more reality congruent in the way we think and act, both as educators and as citizens. That is the main reason. So, what are the consequences in terms of practical efforts we can make? And I say consequences, but in fact, they were the roots, the very roots of the reasoning, of the abstract reasoning that I already summarized in reality. We started from experimentations, didactic practices, and reflections about experiences in reality. And we propose always throughout our own classroom practices to start with pupils and students with experiences, obviously. So do not think that this is theoretical in itself. Theory, we need it. As I said, we just need it. And it is the easiest way, I think, to give you in such a brief video some ideas about our own overall approach. But now we can delve, and you will delve if you want to follow the steps that we propose into the more practical terms of our own experimentation and proposal. So I cannot explain very much about the first two levels that you find in the third point about the practical effort, that is to say, our analysis about the educational system structure, the school organization, and interpersonal cooperation with colleagues, which are three key and very important aspects of analysis that each teacher should and could carry on him or herself in order to better understand the context in which he or she operates. So we cannot share about that. If you're interested, you can contact us to discuss those things, as much as the second one about the learning objectives and planning in more specific terms, because we developed an entire curriculum of civic education, citizenship education, all over the years, from the kindergarten throughout the primary cycle and the secondary one, lower and upper secondary one. So year by year, we tried to think about the learning objectives, all the learning objectives that could be exhaustive enough to cover what is really important and being consistent with our worldview and pedagogical view to develop our abilities and to provide knowledge, and in the end, to really strengthen citizenship competencies in everybody, for everybody. So that's the second point. Also on this, we are going to publish, we already published it in some languages. We're going also to publish it in English. So if you're interested, you can contact us or follow us also throughout our website at Citoyen that I will show you, or our platform, the free platform that I will show you afterwards. In a few seconds, I would say, because it's related to the third line, classroom practices and assessment approaches. So let's see more about these classroom practices we developed. In order to let you know more about them and also to browse among them yourself, I have to show you this platform. You can see here in the address bar the address of the platform online, and this is the freely accessible open access platform that we developed, Daniela Martinelli and me, and which is called Virtual Learning Environment on Europeans Unity, VLEU. Okay, you can access it, as I said, freely. This means the first time you will get there, you just have to register and create your own account with just your name, surname, email address, and your personal password. You will receive a confirmation email on which you have to click on a specific link in that in order to confirm your registration. If you do not receive it, maybe it's on your spam folder. If it's not there, you can write us at citoyen at uniecampus.it, or at the address you can find also in the platform right below here, as you can see. What is this platform? This platform is a place where we put at the disposal of any European citizen, but any global citizen, we would say, because Europe is part of the world, obviously, and its integration or unification process is hugely important at the global scale too. Different opportunities to better know about Europeans' unity on the one hand, but also to better know about this multi-scale citizenship and critical perspective on the pedagogy of citizenship that we are developing, and that we are truly convinced is fully consistent with a European perspective on our collective life. So it can be a contribution as human beings in general to the global debate itself. Let's see in the English version, because you can choose, as you have seen already, among 8 different linguistic versions as of today. I will show you the English one, but you are free to choose any one of them because they all contain the 3 areas that are shown in this list. The first one, for a sustainable education, is the area in which you will find all the activities, the classroom practices that we propose in the citizenship education curriculum from the kindergarten to the secondary school. It's in the section inside this area which is called in the classroom, this one, okay? And as you can see, this section is organized in its turn into the different school levels, but since the activities are in their title and in their fundamental contents and objectives the same all over the year, you can choose whatever level at first in order to get an overall view about this package of proposals, of practical proposals for your classroom implementation. I do not have the time in such a brief introductory video for a short training program to delve more into the activities. I just want you to know that just reading the titles here and looking carefully also at the pictures, which are highly symbolic, you can also already grasp something about their key meaning, we think. And also, all the more so if you read also this very short summary. But you can go inside any of the activity, obviously, and delve more into it. We are in the primary page, but from the very activity, each one of them, you can also go to the description for the lower secondary and the upper secondary, whenever there's also that version. Some of the activities are focused on 1 or 2 school levels, but for the most part, they're all in they're entirely developed throughout the 3 school levels. I just scroll now the screen so that you can maybe notice, looking at the titles and the pictures, that they cover a wide spectrum of contents, topics, and also abilities, learning objectives in terms of abilities in reality, which is maybe less clear from looking at the screen, just reading, but this is an additional information that I give you. So we propose you to browse this page alone on your own and to choose at least one of the activities in order to fully read them and their description at all school levels. The only activity which is not represented here in this list at the primary school level, and it shows up from the lower secondary level, is the last one here, which is the 2030 agenda. This is its title, and okay, it's getting, yes, it's taking time for my internet connection now to upload the page in its entirety, but you can see the title already here in the list on the right, which is much easier because it's without the pictures. Anyway, this is the only activity that I have to add to the list because it's not included in the primary one. We can go, for example, into this activity in its specific page to give you an example of a specific page. So here you can see again it's a symbolic picture. There's an overall description of some key points, conceptual points that the teacher should bear in his or her mind before looking at the practical overview to implement the activity. Then there's the practical overview. For example, in this case, you have an activity with a specific description for the lower secondary, but if you go to the upper secondary version, you will find out that after the general description, you have more than the first one. There's a second, a third, analyzing data, and also a fourth version here for a third stage inside the upper secondary curriculum. So everything is conceived in a progressive way, as I said. Let's come back to finish to the homepage of the platform, and let's go, in this case, to the next two areas, just to look at their contents. We propose in particular in this basic program, we are proposing to delve more into one activity and one section that you find into the EU in question area. Both these two areas are devoted to the European Union, so to the European dimension of our citizenship. The second one, I'm not going to show you now, but you can well browse yourself, is about the history of the European integration process in 12 stages, chronologically conceived from the World War II to today, up to today challenges. So it's a very interesting area, I think, and it's up to you to delve more into it. I will just show you, on the contrary, the EU in question area, which is more about the functioning of the European Union. The first time you go to an area, you have to subscribe to the specific course or area, as we prefer to call it. Then you will find the sections, as we have seen before, for a sustainable education. And among those sections, at the end of this page, you can find this 9th May, the common good page. And here, for those of you who are interested to the primary or the lower secondary level, we warmly suggest to look at the linguistic version that you prefer, both on the platform or directly on YouTube in this case, because this is a direct link to our YouTube channel with the YouTube also playlist devoted to this video, which is about Europe Day. It's not just a video of 5 minutes made with the voices of many children all around Europe in different languages, and also languages that are not represented in the platform, like the Greek version, the Romanian version, for example. You can also find here, on the contrary, in the platform, 4 different kinds of, again, activities, classroom practices that we propose to fully exploit the video in your classroom with your pupils. And on the very channel that I was describing, I can also show you how to go to another kind of artwork, a little piece of video art that we've made, and that is devoted, on the contrary, to secondary students or adult citizens, rather. And it's called Ties We Feel Across Times. It's about the history of integration process, but it's in a nutshell in just 11 to 12 minutes. And after this video, you can do your own reflections about didactic transfer activities for your classroom at the upper secondary level, on the contrary. So in order to end this video and to thank you for your attention, and also tell you again that you can contact us at the email address that you will find in the email you received or in the platform, the VLEU platform. We are Research Center, as I said. We also have a website of our Research Center. You can see the address here. It's called Citoyen, as I said. And here's also the main page of the project, Multiscale U, in which framework we are we have been, I would say, really pleased to propose you to get in contact with us and with our new approach to citizenship education. Let's hope we will have occasions also to meet personally and have a good journey into the materials and the proposals that we made. Thank you.